probateexpert.com, and this is our real estate investing zoom.com weekly call. We do it every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern time. We talk about all things real estate investment, from brand new or want to get started investors to experience. We have wholesalers, we have bird doggers, we have flippers, we have contractors, vendors, and real estate agents, all interested in ways to make more money selling real estate or buying or wholesaling or getting involved, making income and or adding their wealth through real estate. So we do this every week, and we have some regulars and we have some guests on. It's just kind of nice to greet some of the new people. So hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. I had a kind of an eventful Thanksgiving on the positive. Spent it with my grandson, the first time with him at my daughter's house hosting. That was fantastic. The bad news is walking out the door with a pile full of leftovers that were going to last a week, I think. I slipped and fell and went down a whole flight of steps and broke my finger and bruised my thigh, but most importantly, bruised my fragile ego. So hopefully we'll get back on the track here and be able to have a good time today despite that. Okay, I don't think anybody has brought any property today that I've seen or any particular deals that they want to pitch. I do want to encourage anybody when we do these calls every week, if you have a property that you're looking to sell, if you're in a contract and it's off market. Now, what I don't want to do is be promoting MLS properties because we all have access to the MLS. But if you have a property that is off market that you want to present to the team, you're welcome to do that. I just ask you send to me ahead of time so I can look at it and make sure it's going to fit, maybe coach up a little bit on how to present it, make it effective for the team. But when you feel comfortable presenting that for all of us to be successful. But just last call, anybody have any properties they want to present on the call today? I don't see any hands up, and I don't see anybody in the chat box. No? Okay. So what we wanted to talk about today is a concept that's become significant. It's been in the news recently and kind of reduced in its perceived significance, but I think is only going to continue to grow. Like a lot of things, sometimes the news doesn't give us the best idea of where things are headed, which is the iBuyer system and the effect of that in the business to us. So question, has anybody here either sold a property to an iBuyer or bought a property using an iBuyer system? If you have, go ahead and put yes in the chat box or raise your hand or unmute yourself and jump in. I'm glad to have you participate. Anybody who's bought or sold a property using an iBuyer or an agent that's used one, bought from or sold to? Anybody at all? Not so common, I don't think. For as much of the business as it is, it's bigger in some markets, Phoenix, Las Vegas, not as big in Los Angeles, probably because our properties are more unique and vary. It's harder for a computer to get tied down to what the property is. But I wanted to walk through the concept today to show you what I think is happening in the market, why I think it's important, and what I think you can do to participate if you want to make some money using this tool. So let me just share my screen real quick. Shoot screen, and there we are. So these are the kind of ads that buyers might see. Sellers might see sent to them by investors, right? ExpressOffers, marketplace, cash buyers for your home. Request your offer today. Can you guys see that? Yeah? No?
We don't see anything.
You don't see anything?
Yeah, it's just the Brady Bunch right now.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we're having some technical issues. Let me close some screens down here and see if that hasn't helped.
All we see is you, Bill.
Well, that's good news, I guess, for some of you, but that's not really my goal here. My goal is to have more than just my pretty face. Let's see if this is helping.
While you're working that, Bill, you're asking if anybody has bought or sold a property through one of the iBuyer services. I've never done that. I've shown listings owned by these services, and I tell you, across the board, the representation was not good.
You've shown them as a realtor where you had a buyer who wanted to buy a property and the listing was an iBuyer. The owner was an iBuyer company and they're being serviced by somebody and not very effectively.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So I know why you're not seeing it because I'm showing it in the wrong place. Now, hold on 1 second here. I'm going to go back to Zoom. Let me put Zoom in front. technology is great, but you have to know how to do it properly. If you do it wrong, it doesn't work. Okay, do you guys see the screen now with the marketplace for your cash buyers? Let's see, 1 second. There it is. Do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
It wasn't working before because I didn't know what I was doing. Sorry about that, everybody. So this is the kind of ads that are being sent to homeowners. And with social media now and online advertising, increasingly, marketing is bypassing traditional routes and going directly to people. So you can buy a list of homes owned that haven't changed hands for 20, 30 years and market directly to them, and people do. And these are the kind of ads they're getting from companies like agents, like what Zillow was with their iBuyer program, offer pads. There's a number of national companies, there's a number of regional companies and independent players. But these are the kind of ads that they're getting sent directly to them. Need to sell your home. Do you like cash? And then in our case, Offers Express EXP. So what is happening here that they're offering this to people? So let's think for a second, who might be interested in getting an offer directly for cash, and who would pay a premium or maybe would sell the property for a discount for a quick execution? What would that seller look like?
This is Anders. Yeah, I would think that it's someone who don't who is selling and have a house that they want in another city, or they're moving, changing jobs. They don't want to hassle with getting the right price, and then there is a house for them to live in where they're moving. They just want to get rid of the house, get some money for it, and then move to the next house.
Okay, so just to unpack what you said, a couple things there. One is out-of-state owners, right? Because to sell a house might require a variety of vendors and research and work in an area you're not familiar. So out-of-state would be one. The key thing you also said is just not really motivated by the price differential. So somebody who lives in a neighborhood of $5 million houses, selling a house for 600 or 700, that's not going to be that big a deal to them. To them, that's change. To most of us, that's a lot of money, right? So somebody who has money and doesn't necessarily worry about the difference as much. Cash buyers, why else might you? So you're out of state, the dollar amount differential doesn't seem significant. Why else would somebody be interested in a cash buyer versus a retail buyer getting top dollar?
Elderly behind on maintenance of the house, or folks that are in financial issues. So two different groups there.
Okay, so the person who now owns the house is elderly and may or may not have the physical ability to do the work to bring a house to market. Or financially, they're behind on their payment, they're behind on the mortgage, they're behind on taxes, on maintenance, things like that. And they assume that they need to sell the property quickly, or are interested in getting it sold quickly. Good. And then I think the last category I would say is fell out of escrow, meaning all those might be true. They were in escrow thinking it was going to close, and then all of a sudden something happens and they're not. And so that's who's interested in a cash buyer situation. So think about for a second, what does the iBuyer do that didn't exist in the market before they existed? What's different about them? I would say nothing. Right? When I heard the concept of iBuyers, what I felt like was they're putting what I would call lipstick, new lipstick, on an old pig. Because as a real estate agent, I often had investors who would make cash offers on property. And all the iBuyer was doing was perhaps doing my job better than me, which was interacting with the seller, presenting an offer, and telling the seller this offer is fair. And that's why I've not used iBuyers to actually sell properties by and large, but I've used the tool to get in discussion with sellers. But if you really think about it, I want all of you to think about this. If you're in the business of selling property, or representing sellers, or investing in property, all the iBuyer is really what you're supposed to be doing. It's just a fancy package or a challenge to you to increase your packaging. Make yourself look a little more powerful. What do I mean by that? Is there anybody here who's ever been to a homeowner's house before and talked to them, and the homeowner was interested in a cash offer, And then you had to go back out and get offers to bring back to them. Who's had that happen before? You raise your hand or put in the chat box yes, or unmute yourself and say yes. What real estate agent or investor has gone to a house, met a seller, and they said, yeah, I'd like to sell the house. How much can you get for it? And then your next step was to go out and find somebody who would buy the property. Besides me, who's done that?
I did recently.
Okay.
It was
Now-
different.
Yeah. Now, some realtors have a different amount of skill and will come in and make an assessment and make an offer on the spot. They know the market, or they limit their geography enough so that when they go to a property, they size the condition on the spot, they can make an offer. And as a realtor, I try to do that. Either I try to know the number, or I'll call an investor friend of mine and say, hey, I'm going to this house. I'm meeting at 6:00 tonight. Give me a cash price that you would buy it at. I think it has to be at least this. And they'll come back and give me a price, or they won't, or I'll find somebody else to give a better price. Now, generally, when I'm talking to people, I've already either introduced myself as an investor or a realtor, and you can't switch. You can't go in as a realtor and then buy it on the cheap as an investor. That's not ethical, in my opinion. And you really can't go as an investor and then offer to list it because they think they need to have a professional realtor and don't see the two being the same, in my experience. So I try to flesh out ahead of time which they're really looking for and present that solution to them. But really, when you go see a seller, if you're an agent, a wholesaler, or investor, and you go meet the seller at the house, they have a problem. The solution is selling the house. And one of the steps of that solution is making them an offer, true or false. That's all it is. So the iBuyer is a fancy way, a fancy word for quickly, efficiently, technologically enabled making an offer on a property. And by the way, all of the iBuyers, Zillow included, OfferPads, or all the others, while they will initially make an offer to a seller based on computer models, they'll all say, oh, we'll offer to buy your house for $800,000, subject to our inspecting the property. Believe me, they go back and they look inside and they verify the permit. They do all their research after they've gone to the property. And when you cut the numbers and look at Zillow's numbers and dig deeper, you're going to find that they end up buying about 1% of all the inquiries that come into them. For every 100 home sellers who say, hey, I'm interested in selling my house, only 1% actually end up closing. About 1 in 50 move forward with them, and 1 in 2 of those actually write a contract, as it turns out. So I wanted to challenge all of you, and I thought about this, and I could have invited somebody else on who does this. I've done this myself. And so I thought I would just walk you through as an investor. You might come across leads that you don't want to buy, but somebody else should. And we call those wholesale. Every investor I know who buys property and flips them through the year, buys them and holds them, for every one they buy themselves, they'll wholesale 2 or 3. That's because they've met with a customer, and also because that extra money in the wholesaling pays for their marketing. You don't look down your nose at the deal. If you can wholesale it, get it under contract and flip it to somebody else and pocket $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 or more, that pays for your marketing to find the ones that you want to buy yourself. So I wanted to kind of share this tool today with all of us. If you're not interested, no, I can do this. Or if you're another real estate agent who does it, this is how you want to approach them. But I want to share with you kind of what that looks like so that you can be effective. So let me go back to the right screen and share. So this is an intake screen that I have, expressoffers.com/Bill-Gross. That's my unique URL that I would offer on any marketing to get sellers to click on my particular page. Now, it doesn't have to be. That's just what I use from mine so that anybody who I show that to comes to me as a lead. All these systems have marketing components to them. If you're an agent, most of these systems give you your own unique marketing link. But you want to track the leads that come to you, because if you're going to post in social media, certainly if you're going to have paid ads, you want to track the performance of the link and the performance of your leads. So this is what it says. It's pretty simple. put your name in, the property address, and email, sell my home. And what happens is that this generates an email and a phone text, in this case to me, to call somebody who's interested in moving on their home. And I call them on the phone and I say, hey, it's Bill Gross. I see you want to sell your home. I'd love to help you do that. Tell me a little bit about why you're selling it. My goal is to develop some rapport, develop the relationship at the beginning. I'm taking notes. If I have the property address, I already know a lot about the property. I don't tell them all that. I ask them about the property and the condition. And then the goal is I want to meet with them. I want to see the property in person as quick as I can. And I'd like to meet them as well from a relationship point of view. Here's the key part. I get sent deals from some of you, wholesalers, investors, other agents, all the time. I get sent texts and emails saying, hey, I see this property 123 Main Street. What can you do with it? Well, it's one thing just to have a lead, which is nice. Really, information is just data. Somebody says, well, this house is vacant. That's data. I think it's vacant. I drove by it, nobody's there. It's a lead when you go to the house and you talk to the person and they tell you they're interested in selling the property. That's a lead. So this becomes a lead because the seller has raised their hand and said, I want to sell my house. How do you convert the lead into a sale? Well, the next step is to evaluate what's the property worth. So we created at EXP this intake form. We call it Property Condition Report. And if you want to get one yourself, you can just text the word ExpressOffers, one word, to 213-460-2577. And you'll get back a link to a version of this form. But you could use this form yourself, whether you work with me or not, or any other EXP agent. Look at the information we're just asking for, a place to put the seller's information. And then photos. And one thing I want to tell wholesalers, when you go to a house, if you're door knocking, and you get inside, you have information that's very valuable. If a property is worth $500,000, it could be worth $510 or $490 based on facts inside the house. And if you're the only person inside, that information is valuable. That's how you get paid. And so here we're showing you a list of the photos you should take to interest a competent investor. Front of the house, back of the house, street view, roof, pool if any, backyard, living room, family room, kitchen, each appliance, because you see the condition of them, each bedroom, each bathroom, the furnace, and ideally you want to get an idea of how old it is, electric panel, water heater, again, if there's a serial number, dates and such with that, same with the AC unit, and then any damage repairs needed. And now when you have that information and email it to me or some other agent you work with or investor, they have a fairly complete package of the property. Now, the next is general property info. A lot of this is already in public records. So when I go to a property, I've already pre-checked all this. I have my system pre-checked. I don't need to ask, is this single family or condo? I know that based on the address. What floor is it? Property level, year built, square footage, lot size. All this is in the property profile you can get from a title rep for free. In fact, we have Veronica Sanchez on the call. Talk to her. She has a great app that you can get the property information from if you need that. Beds, baths, and such. And if you check this out and spend, I don't know, 10 minutes, again, some of this is online already, and I can just go and check. Hey, I noticed that it says you have air conditioning. You show me where it is. It says that you have heating. You show me where the furnace is. It's a way to create rapport with the seller, show them I'm hitting all the key points. Now, let me ask you this. If I walked in with this in a clipboard and you're a home seller and I ask questions to see these points of information of your property, what do you think about me as I walk through your house?
That you're more serious than just some fool off the street that's just asking questions, redundant questions, maybe.
Exactly. Exactly. Kitchen updated, no, yes or no. And these are things you can check with your own eyes. You can also ask them and write your own notes. The more information, the better. Here's an important phrase I learned from the movie Wall Street, which is probably older than most of you on the call. Information is the most valuable resource because you might know damage to the property or something about the property that's been fixed that the old photos have, something. Then permitted this, they can save a buyer $5,000, $10,000 or a lot of time. Just by having a process where you go through and, number one, present to your investor a more complete package. And two, you show the prospect, the seller, that you're more knowledgeable than the average agent, investor, wholesaler. Can you have the number to text? Yeah, the number to text to is, let me put that in the chat box. Text Express Offers one word to 213-460-2577. And you'll get back my version of that form. And look, obviously I'd like to work with you. You don't have to work with me. This isn't signing up to do anything with me. I'm just challenging you to be better on your game. And I also want you, more important than that, understand the process. The process of an iBuyer, there's no magic to it. It's no different. If you took that industry out of the business, it's the same thing. Somebody owns a house they want to get rid of. The marketplace is ready to buy it. How do we get in the middle and make that happen? And the iBuyer was just a fancy way of saying, using technology to streamline the process of presenting the offers to investors. Now, in our case as a company, EXP has a list of mostly regional and national investors. So we can upload it to a computer and get bids from them efficiently and quickly. That's nice. Sometimes the price isn't so good. So once I send to them, if the seller doesn't accept it, I still can take it back to investors to get a better price. Right? So it's not the be all end all. Sometimes investors make a mistake and overpay. I had a listing I didn't get because the seller had an offer from Zillow that was about $30,000 or $40,000 more than it would sell for. And I said, hey, if they're going to offer you that price, take it. The property is still in the market. It's been 9 months because they comped it as a single family home. And in reality, is what's called a small lot subdivision. It's like a house, but it's like a condo. And they were comping it to houses, which don't make sense at all.
I thought Zillow's purchasing was the iBuyer, but now I'm understanding the difference of it. So, but Zillow's algorithm is completely off with the comps. I mean, if you pull up any property on Zillow, it's like we just talked about, 34, 40,000, maybe sometimes 60,000 over what it's normally worth. And then it's sitting on the market for months.
Well, I'll tell you why. So Zillow really was a victim of its own success. When Zillow started, they were funded by Wall Street money, which could take a long-term perspective. They could lose money in the beginning, develop their reputation, and profit in the long run, which is what they did. And they generated some great technology of data. And what they did in the beginning was they would analyze the value of properties, and they were the first really even close to accurate estimate online. They created the first consumer available, here's an estimate of your house, plus or minus 5 or 10%. It was very powerful. And so buyers would go there to start the looking process. What happened was they started pretending as though it was more accurate than it was and trying to sell buyers and sellers that the price was accurate. But at the same time, their core business is what? What does Zillow do? What's their number one business? Anybody know?
Selling, renting, providing values.
No. So there's a rule in online, in the internet, which is if you're not buying the product, you are the product. So what that means is if you're not paying Zillow for something, then you're the product. What Zillow was doing was selling the buyers looking at properties, data to real estate agents or investors to approach them to sell the house or buy houses, primarily buyers. And they've worked on getting into more seller leads, but primarily their business is buyers shop, give them data, they sell to realtors sell them houses. That's their basic business. And I think from where I sit, realtors are a fairly easy market to sell to because they'll pay for things more than they're worth for a period of time. And so Zillow's constantly turning over realtors who overpay don't make money, quit. New agent comes in, overpays, does it for a while, quits. So the estimate number is designed, because think about it, as a company, their job is to sell advertising. So the number started to morph from an estimate that was based on accuracy to, in my experience, a number designed to get buyers and sellers to inquire and put their information in to generate leads. For example, one thing I noticed is as soon as a property went pending, they would drop the price tremendously. Why? Because they learned that they knew the house wasn't worth that much, and they're assuming the market is more accurate than the number they had. The list price. So it was listed, they drop it down to the list price, even if the property was worth way more. So again, their job is their job. Their job is sell advertising. They're not a real estate brokerage. They're not representing sellers. The opposite. Like if I go to a customer's house and the customer says, "Hey, Bill, why don't you buy it?" Well, now I have a little legal challenge. I have to explain to the seller, okay, I can buy it, but I can't represent you and be the principal, or I can, but that puts certain responsibilities on me. Zillow never represents the seller. They're always in a competitive situation with a buyer when they would buy with the seller, when they would buy properties. So they don't have that responsibility of fiduciary to the client. So again, their number was designed. So the fact that the prices were high, they were kind of drinking their own Kool-Aid, thinking, oh, look how great these deals are. We're buying all these properties based on this estimate. Guess what? This estimate was high because it was generating phone calls and the emails. It wasn't really an estimate of the value of the properties. All of that's along with saying Zillow's out of that business temporarily, maybe forever. I don't know. Welcome to real estate, Zillow. It's a tough business. It's not as easy as you thought. But there's other people still doing it effectively. My point is, it has nothing to do with iBuyer. That is just a term the real estate press developed for getting together with sellers and buying properties and either buying them as an investor or buying them as a wholesaler or buying them as an agent and selling them on the market. Our job is to figure out what the property is worth, because the more accurate, here's a general principle you can take to the bank. The more accurate your assessment of the value of the property, the more money you'll make. True or false? As an agent, if you know what the house will sell for, will that help you be more effective as an agent? True or false? True, right? You can decide to list it high or low, but at least you'll know your options. As an investor, the more accurate your assessment of the value of the property, the more money you make. True or false? True. So this doesn't change that. All that's happened is our system, we use ExpressOffers. I'm just laying out for you the process, and Zillow did the same, OfferPads does the same. They create some systems to up the standard of service in that competitive marketplace. You can do the same thing. So when you look at a property, these are the things you want to look at. When you see a property that's off market that you're thinking of tying up to flip, this is the information you want to have. You know the info, present that to your investor, and then you get paid in the middle, either as an investor, as a wholesaler, or as an agent. Does that make sense? No? Am I all right there?
Yes, it makes sense.
Questions? I know I talked a lot and I talk fast. Questions?
Well, I do have a question. The sheet and the actual lead. If we're bringing it to our investors, is that not the definition of a bird dog? Because you're not, representing the buyer, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so all I'm saying is the more complete information you bring to somebody, the more likely you are to get paid.
Okay.
Because they're going to turn around. This is all the information they need to get anyhow, right? There's no way investor's going to buy a property without knowing all this information. There's no magic to this. This is describing the property. And from there, one can do an analysis as to what it's worth by comparing it to similar properties.
Okay.
And all I'm suggesting is, and I've had bird doggers bring me deals, and they give me a little bit of information, and I'll go online, I'll find more, and either I'll pay somebody to go to the house and get pictures and fill this out for me, or you can do it yourselves. Either one's fine. But all I'm saying is that the iBuying is no magic. All it is a fancy way of saying doing all this and doing it kind of elegantly and a little faster.
So I was saying earlier that I had a property that I know that's not been listed yet, and it's in North Redondo Beach. And I'm going to go through this process via the chat we had today. But I'm told that basically it's a tear down. So I'm not really sure if I think $800,000 for that size lot is appropriate. I'll have to do more research on it, but I'm excited that we have this call today because I'm like, oh, well, this is how I can best suit the investors and present it to people on this call.
So I find that people will use the word tear down, but if there's something that is usable, it's worth a lot of money to the investor. I'll give you an example, two examples. One is I had a property last year I sold that was fire damaged in, what's the area called? View Park. It's like north of Slauson, east of La Cienega, west of La Brea, up on the hill. Nice area, big lots, fire damaged house on a big lot with a view. Every other investor came by and bid on it, said it was a tear down. But one guy who's a builder said, well, actually, because there are plans that had been submitted, and he could save about the front third of the house, and that was worth some amount of money to him as well. And he paid more than the rest by about $80,000 and got the property. So by having pictures of what's there, he was interested to go walk the property and made his own assessment. I don't know if it's salvageable or not, but the photos got him interested and got him there. I have another property where the buyer, my investor, who buys properties and adds units, that's his business. But he loves properties with back alleys or on corners. And how big is the alley? Is the alley big enough to justify the access and such? And having photos of the back help him make that assessment. So instead of having to drive the property, he can look at it and say, yes, we'll bid on it. So the more information you have in general, information is a valuable commodity. The more information you have, the more money you're going to make. That's all. And so even if you think it's a teardown, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And even there, some photos of the street and such will help assess what the property is worth. Because you can go online and look at Google Maps, but that might be 6 months or a year or older. And being there will help them assess it. But good points.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, and I'd be glad to take a look at it. And of course, lots, if it's a tear down, then really it's a lot. So what is that worth and what a house is going for and the cost to build and such. That's a different set of investors or builders.
And I'm still learning a lot of that stuff. I mean, I don't want to be that girl that's like, I don't know anything about construction. I know about some things, but by all means, I'm not the expert.
Okay. Well, I'm big for staying in your lane, but at the same time, learning and asking the questions and bringing the information to the expert.
Yes, exactly.
Good. Anybody, who else has a question on this or comment? Was this helpful? What did we learn today?
So.
What did we learn today?
I think the right type of, I guess, how to present a real deal or lead. iBuying, fancy word.
Yeah, fancy word for evaluating a property in detail and presenting it to a qualified buyer, investor, or wholesaler.
Yeah, I agree with Melissa. It's a hype word for some things that they can market, but you're still need to do the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, whether you approach the seller online or they're your friend, neighbor, or whatever, whether you communicate with them via email or website or go to their house, at the end of the day, you still have to assess what the value of the property is, and somebody has to do an inspection, and somebody's got to take some photos. So that's all it is, the same process. Now, in our case, as a company, one of the unique things that makes me comfortable is we don't buy or sell the properties. We're a broker. So we have investors who sign up with us. We show them the properties, they make bids on them. As a company, we act like I do as an agent. I don't typically bid on properties that are brought to me. Occasionally I do, but the 90% of the time, I bring it to investors. So I'm not making money or losing money on the deal. I want my investor to make money, but I'm not putting my money at risk. Whereas Zillow and OfferPads and those companies, they're actually profiting. So they're not just the marketplace, they're also the investor who wants to profit on the flip of the property. In my case, I'm just the middleman trying to find the end user and get the property to that person, and I get paid in the middle. And maybe get you paid on the front end if you find the property. So if you find properties, I would urge you to take a more complete approach to getting information about them. Use this form or other forms. If you want to, afterwards, call me, text me, email me. Let's set time. I can walk you through what gets done. If you find a particular property, I can send you this form. If you want to present it to me and or my book of investors, I'd be glad to look at it for you. And make sure you get paid if we can do that. Okay, so Melissa, thank you, Melissa. She's a property management company located in El Segundo. But she's wearing a mask because she's in her office. I met her office manager.
Because I'm a ninja. No.
She's a ninja. She's a property
No,
management ninja.
Yes, yes. Working on big stuff. I'm always happy to help out investors and realtors. So anybody that wants to have a little chat with me, have coffee, I'm happy to treat you and learn more about you. And thank you for everybody for being on this call.
Thanks, Melissa. Sean Barrett's on. He's our resident photographer. He does stills, video, drone, and 3D. Has his information in the chat box. So give Sean Barrett a call if he can help you, or text or email. The only properties of mine that he ever took pictures of sold pretty fast, actually. So definitely can recommend him. And Cheyenne Miles is an investor-friendly realtor. Well, Cheyenne, nice to meet you. Otherwise, so I think that's all I really have for today. I'm working hard the rest of the year. I can just tell you that for me and my career, December has always been, oh, I see, Mehdi, you have your hand up. Mehdi? Or was that old? Mehdi, hi, what's up? You had your hand up. Do you have a question? You're muted.
Sorry, Bill.
No problem.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was just saying thanks for all the value you add to the knowledge. I'm just sitting here learning.
Oh.
And also, wanted to mention a couple of things. And you talked about being able to value a property, and just the concept of valuation is good to know about, because you were pointing that out. But like, if you know different methods and valuing the property as an investor, that would help out a lot in knowing where you stand, regardless of all the market manipulations. But I don't know if you remember, I was looking at a single family home in Torrance, in North Torrance, 90501. And I was looking into buying it and adding ADU in the back, like I did at my first property. And a gentleman suggested perhaps not a very fantastic deal when we talked about the numbers. And I'm glad I didn't pull the trigger. And now I'm in the market for a fourplex anywhere in the South Bay and perhaps Koreatown, like Laymark Park. Those areas are pretty good. I'm just looking at those, and the ADU I did was pretty successful in Torrance too. Just wanted to mention that.
Nice. Well, talk about your ADU real quick. How much did you spend on the ADU?
That was like, took me a year and a half. I just basically did that paycheck to paycheck. And
What did the whole project cost you?
120,000.
How much square footage did you add?
719 square feet. And I
150 square foot.
719 square feet. I ended up moving into the ADU right here.
Nice.
And rented out the front unit, the main house, for 3,000.
Nice. Nice.
So that was a good move. And I'm looking into doing that on fourplexes and sixplexes
Nice.
now.
You know, the challenge of valuing property that I find is you have to know, most properties today being bought in LA, they're sold at a profit. You have to do something with it to unlock the profit. So you have to see the property, you have to understand what it could be, execute that could be in order to get the profit. So you saw a property, you add an ADU, you get the profit. You find a property, a fourplex. Maybe you have to, upgrade things to get better rents. Maybe to evict tenants. You have to add some value for the most part. So that's where it really comes into, for me as a broker, a little bit more than I'm going to spend time on. But when I work with investors that do certain things, I want to send the properties to them, their candidates. So you being looking for fourplex, I can send you some fourplexes. You'll figure out if that's going to fit your game plan or not. But it's hard to teach somebody what the valuations of each type of property because they're all different. Depends on the location. The amount of improvement can also be based on the market area, what you can add and make a profit on in say LA mid cities is different than what you can in West LA or Brentwood. So you have to know those markets and what you can get and what the cost is to build.
Correct.
Love to. Appraisal is an amazing topic, very deep and detailed, and even the value of properties. The best thing I try to do is comp and get close, and then get an investor who's really that's their specialty.
I appreciate that feedback, and I agree. That's why I feel lucky to have this group of architect, a contractor now, and a lot of different subcontractors that could help me from assessing whether a project could be done on that particular property, as well as its future cash flow potential and capital gain and so much more. And it just feels so much easier when you have that around you. But yes, that would be awesome.
Fantastic. Okay, good. Before we wrap up, any other questions, comments, problems, properties to sell?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Thursday, that's the 2nd, from 6:30 to 9, there is the LA Investing Vendor Expo.
Oh, thank you.
Hosted by the LA Investing Club. Anybody that wants to attend, great information, a good way to meet new people, great contacts. As far as I know, it's, I believe, a free event, but feel free to mosey on through. I'll be there, so I'll look forward to seeing anybody that wants to come visit.
Thank you. I meant to share that. LAREIC, the Los Angeles Real Estate Investors Club. They have
Lloyd is kind of the host of it. Lloyd Siegel, I believe it is, and very, very nice man. A lot of the investors came from the South Bay area, but now that they're hosting it more in the LA area. But great group of people. Bill and I got to see each other there at the big expo that they did, and I had a wonderful time. It
was a lot of fun. Yeah, he does this once a month. It used to be at the Olympic Collection. Olympic Collection has since closed, and now he's held the last couple on the UCLA campus, Ackerman Hall. It's free, and he brings in a great guest speaker. And it's not tomorrow; it's Thursday. From 7:30 to 9:30. He has a vendors expo, 6:30 to 7:30. So I like the vendors expo myself. Usually they'll have 40, 50, 60 vendors and professionals like, you can see Melissa Eloa live and in person. Usually I'm there. I won't be there this Thursday. But 6:30 to 7:30, and then he has Jason Porter talks about tax deed investing. I get asked about this a lot. This is a guy who actually will talk about it. And he has a program. There's a discount if you're there that you can take advantage of. But this is kind of what it looks like. This is the old venue, but it's about that big. I was there last month in October. They had 250 people there plus 70 guests. That's the speaker, Jason Porter. Go to LAREIC, LAREIC, free admission, free parking. What else? If you're a vendor, you can pay or just show up and meet people. I would say go and meet people. It's a great event. Not to be missed. I'm only missing it this week for something personal, but otherwise be there. Thank you, Melissa, for reminding me of that. I'm sorry I missed that. Ed Caldera, you have your hand up. How can I help you?
So, Bill, thank you for putting this meeting together. I just started. I hired a couple of VAs to help me with virtual for wholesaling. Just started this last week, so I'm having to go through some growing pains and having to filter out some information. But what I do full time as well is I help investors with purchasing units. I specialize between 5 to 8 unit purchases with just lease agreements. Very competitive rates at 4.5 30-year fixes. So if any of you have investors that want to buy and hold long term, that's the best product on the market right now. But as far as wholesaling, once I come across a good deal, Bill, I would love to see what you think of the property that I come across.
Do, and send me your info. If you do loans like this, let me put a flyer out next time and promote it. If you're on the call, appreciate having you here. I'd like to share information and give people a chance to meet you. So email me a flyer if you have one, or link to your website or something. And if you come on next week, let me share that information with people, feel more effective. Okay.
You got it.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Okay. Any other questions, challenges, problems I can help you with today?
Now, I sent you some properties that I drove by that were kind of scary. Maybe we can talk about them next week. But
yeah,
what I like to do, people, is when I'm on my appointments, I see, the telltale signs of a neglected property, the roof maybe coming apart, the lawn overgrown. I really love when I see non-op vehicles that have, messed up, plastic over them. Maybe junk in the windows, but I just take a snapshot, and maybe now, of course, if I can dedicate more time, I can just pop right in and knock on the door with your nifty little notepad and get more information. So, but I just do it from out my car window, and I shared it with Bill, and as I find more, of course, I'll share them with the group.
Well, look, if you are an investor looking for property management, Melissa can help you, also give you good intel on the rental market. And if you're a bird dogger or wholesaler, she comes across properties, you might want to take some of those leads and follow up on them and dig a little deeper and see if there's some money to be made on them. So I'd love to encourage you to get involved with her. And big fan of Melissa's. Okay, I think that's all we have for this week. So thank you so much again. Feel free, if you want to come back next week, if you have a property to pitch, send it to me ahead of time. If you're a lender, Ed, or anybody like you, send me a flyer. I'm always glad to promote people who are on the call. Appreciate you guys being on the call today. Thanks so much. Make this your best week ever. Thank you so much, everybody.
Take care. Bye.